Hey cats, what's happening? I got this coyote skull here that we found a few years ago, and it was covered with flesh, sinew that you just couldn't even peel off. So what I did is I put it outside in a bucket and covered it with leaf litter, and that took all of the flesh off of it, the bugs and the stuff. But you could see all the teeth have come off from the thing. The jaws still have all the teeth intact, but the skull, I need to put all these teeth back in. But before I do any of that, I just washed it all off. I scrubbed it with a toothbrush, and then I'm going to let it dry. And then all of that's going into a big Ziploc bag full of hydrogen peroxide. And hydrogen peroxide is like a mild acid, acidic. So it'll whiten all this up. It'll turn this nice and white. And then I'm going to super glue all the teeth back in the order that they go. And then I'm thinking about dipping it, where I'm going to like fill up a 5-gallon bucket full of water, and then you spray paint. You let the paint float on top of the water, and you can do different colors, random colors. And then you dip the skull down into the bucket, and the paint adheres to it in whatever pattern. You might have a swirl pattern or whatever you decide to do. So I'm thinking about doing that. And what's this for? It's going to be for my grandson. I'm going to give it to my grandson when I'm all done, because he likes skulls, and I think he has a little skull collection. I've got the trickle charger hooked up to the Ultra. The temperatures aren't going to get any better. It's cold today. It's in the low 50s, and at night it drops down into the 30s. So it's pretty cold. I'm having to build a fire in the house every day to keep the house warm. But outside, it's doggone cold. I think anybody that watches my channel, you're pretty well aware that I take great pride in maintaining my property. I keep everything mowed, neat, trimmed. I take care of my house. I take care of my landscape. I put a lot of effort into it over the years, trying to make the place look nice. Originally, I didn't have this handicap ramp here, but I have no intentions of taking it down anytime soon. I think it's kind of a neat addition to the front of the house, regardless. You won't see any junk laying around in my yard, no junk cars or anything like that. Everything's, I like it that way. I like it neat and tidy. I take care of my pond. I do whatever's necessary there to maintain it so it doesn't get overgrown with cattails or seaweed. And I take care of my fish that are stocked in there. The back of my house is always neatly maintained as well. As I live here, though, I continue to wonder what the future of this property will be. In the next maybe 50, maybe even 100 years, what will this be like here? Will my house stand the test of time? I obviously won't be around. Or, will it be zoned differently around here? I don't know, but it always interests me. I like this rural life. I like the seclusion that I have back here, that I don't have any visible neighbors. My nearest neighbors are across the street and other homes down there at the street. To the south of me, this is all agricultural property, and the farm is like, a quarter of a mile over that way. The actual farmhouse and the barns and everything. So once in a while I'll hear a cow mooing or something like that from over there. But other than that, it's pretty quiet here. Not everybody maintains their property like me. Everybody to their own taste. Some people, it's like all they do is mow their lawn. They don't put any more effort into it than that with landscaping or anything. Some people put some effort into it, but maybe they don't have the taste for, they'll just randomly stick stuff around in their yard. My dad was a landscape architect, and so I learned a lot of stuff from him about, what looks nice and aesthetically, in your yard, and how to, just make things look very nice. But not everybody thinks that way. The people that own this property, I think they only mowed their lawn once this whole year, and their backyard is fenced in with old used pallets. Yeah, not a lot of landscape going on there. Some people put a little effort into their landscape, while others are just minimalists and they really don't care. But for the most part, most of the homes here are fairly nice. I don't know how this home gets by, but it's just nothing but a junkyard. I'm sure they've gotten some letters from the zoning commission. You like to call these cornfield homes. There's a new one that just came up. They don't even have a yard in yet. There's some old farms here that have been around for quite a while. And then there's brand new spreads here that are done very tastefully. As time marches on, though, I continue to see my community growing more and more every year. It's not the real rural area that it was back in the early 90s when I built this place. There's been many new homes come up in those years, and they continue to build new homes around here all the time. So part of my concern is, that what's going to happen around here one day. And as usual, I can't even come down and pick up my mail without getting hit by a car. The traffic has increased tenfold or more from the time that I moved in here. The property to the south of me here is all zoned agricultural right now. It's all farmland. Could they sell it off one day and build homes there? Well, I've learned a couple things about the zoning around here with my township. And number one is they won't allow any subdivisions. So, you won't see a subdivision going up over here, at least not any time in my lifetime. But they can sell it off in parcels. Now, the average parcel around here is between 3 or 5 acres. But there are some larger parcels of land too that people own. But you have to have a minimum of 3 acres to put a family dwelling on. And so that would mean, that somebody could buy 5 acres or so here, which would be about the size of my property, and a house could go up right next door to me here if this property ever sold. A lot of farmland around here eventually, they might be 1,000-acre farm, even like a 250-acre farm, and they'll sell them and break them up into like 5-acre, 10-acre lots, and people will buy them and build homes on. Now, in order in my township for a home to be built, it has to have frontage to a street. So, if somebody bought the property in front here and somebody wanted to buy the property that was landlocked behind there, they wouldn't be able to build on it unless they had an easement or an access to get back to it, and that would have to be a 50-foot wide easement. So those kind of things are highly unlikely, hard to come by. Purchasing an easement off somebody else's property might not go over easily. So most of the homes are going to have frontage to a street. As is usually the case, most people don't build back as far as I did. I'm 650 feet off of the street back here. The reason being is the farther back you come off the street, the more expensive it is, because if you're going to run utilities, 650 feet is a long ways to run a water line, a gas line, a sewer line, and people, they prefer to make it a little cheaper and have their houses closer to the street. That's why you'll see a lot of homes along here that are relatively close to the street and not tucked way back in the woods like mine is. Now, I often wondered, what if the neighbors built something back here? And really, because they already have a single dwelling home on that property, they can't build a second home on this same property. Only one home per lot. But they could build a pole barn back here, and have that. If you were going to build out here, though, they do have regulations on that too. I think the minimum home has to be like at least 950 square foot. And you cannot live in a travel trailer or a shed or a pole barn. It has to be a structure with a foundation. Like a rubber, they have to follow codes on building. Everything behind me is land conservancy. And what is that? Well, this parcel of woods back here, which is a couple hundred acres, is just all deemed conservancy, a land conserve. So in other words, they cannot build on it. They can hunt back here with permission, but you'll never see any building structures going up here as long as it remains a land conservancy. Would that be for eternity? I don't know. I'm sure as time goes on, things change. Even zoning laws change. So, but in my lifetime, I'll never see anybody build back here. Aside from the fact that this is landlocked, you'd have to have an easement. Even if it's sold as developmental property, you'd have to have an easement to get back into it to build on it. So chances of ever seeing a home back here are zero. So yeah, I'm pretty content that for the rest of my living life here on Earth, I'll be back here by myself. I don't expect to see any neighbors. Like I said, though, you never know. The people that own this farm over here on the south of me, they could easily sell off their property one day and just decide, to take the money and get out of the farming business. As far as that goes, though, they don't even farm their land per se. It's contracted out. So they get paid by a contractor who comes in and does all the planting, all the reaping, and everything such as that. I had a hickory tree come down the other day in the windstorm. Oh, let's see, it's hung up here in this maple, and there's a bunch of nice wood back there. So today I'm going to break out my chainsaw and start cutting up some more firewood and hauling it up to the house. That windstorm knocked down this one that's laid up in this maple. So I'll be cutting that one up today for firewood. And then over here on my trail, there's been this widowmaker up here that I think it's to the point now where I can work it. It's hanging right over my trail, and it's hanging up there by one little stick, one little limb that's clamped on there that's holding it on this one that's leaning this tree over. But I can start down here and just start chunking it up, and eventually it'll roll and drop off of there. And that'll make some nice firewood too. It's just an old elm, but it's dry, it's seasoned, it's been dead for a while. It'll make good firewood. Well, it's freezing cold out here today, and I think as I looked at the weather forecast, it's going to be cold the rest of the month and probably moving into November. I think our summertime is over. Our wonderful warm riding weather is over. I don't see temperatures getting anywhere above the mid-50s through the rest of the month. So when I do ride, I'm just going to have to layer up, bundle up, make sure I got my gloves on, and probably switch to my, fleece winter beanie, because my ears will get cold in the wind. Anyways, cats, that's my wrap for today. Just talking about the property and my thoughts about what the future of it might be. I don't think anything's going to change, to be honest with you, not in my lifetime. I figure if I'm lucky, I got another 20 years, so I can hang on that long, and I don't see any big changes happening during that time. But you never know. You never know. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. I appreciate you guys. If you like my video, hit that like button. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and continue to join me. Until next time, cats, I'll catch you guys later.